Hey everyone, Tim from ModelKitReviews.com here, and today I want to just kind of go over a quick tutorial about a kit I'm working on. But first, a little bit of background. So I'm actually working on a kit. It's a high-grade Universal Century Geara Zulu kit from Gundam Unicorn, and this is actually a kit that was given to me in a completed form by a friend of mine who I always heard me talking about how fun building Gundam kits are, and he was like, "Well, I should totally try that." So he went down to the hobby shop, and I told him explicit instructions. I was like, just make sure that you pick up an easy kit. I said, why don't you start with the high grade, RX-78-2. It's an easy build. It's a good way to kind of dip your toe into the waters. But nope, he went in and he came out with a high grade Geara Zulu, which is an incredibly, as far as high grade kits go for someone who's never built a model kit in their life, it's a very complicated kit. I would say the difficulty level is probably on par with some mid-90s master grades. It's because that's just how far high-grade kits have come. So that being said, he did this kit, kind of got his fill of building Gunpla, building model kits in general, and gave this to me. He also bought two other kits that I'll probably be showing at some point, and gave me all of his paints and everything else. So I kind of hit a bit of a lull. I've been doing a lot of really difficult kits lately, I've done 2 master grades. I've done a lot of older kits from the 1970s and 80s, and to get quality results requires a ton of work. So I'm actually kind of doing a little bit of a cooling off period with some high grade kits, and I had this guy sitting in a box, this very box right here, and I said, I should really just, I should give a shot on this and see what I can do with it. So anyway, I've inherited the kit with a lot of nub marks. You can see here. My friend, he did what he could, but not a modeler. Was just happy enough that he was able to get the kit together, but you can see it needs a lot of work, and that's fine. If you're just looking to slap a kit together, that's great. The hobby is built as such that you can put as much work as you want to, and it's all about how much satisfaction you actually do get from the building of it. But I'm going to take it a step further, and so I've been going through and refinishing a lot of pieces of this kit. Here's the arm shield, currently in a state. Got some battle damage on there, so I could actually be showing that in a future video. But why we're here today is I want to talk a little bit about texturing. And this is actually something that comes from military modeling. If you look at tanks or any military hardware, but specifically tanks, you'll notice that it's never really a smooth finish, and some of the best military modelers out there are very good at achieving extremely realistic results through oil paint rendering, just damage, that kind of thing. Weathering is a specialty. And I kind of want to bring a little bit of that to this kit, because this kit, if you've ever seen the Geara Zulu, very kind of World War II German uniform inspired kind of look to them. So I really want to kind of introduce that military look into this kit. So I'm going to be doing that through kind of the same way that you would do something like a tank, because when it comes down to it, Gundams are kind of like just giant tanks with legs, right? So I'm going to go through and do a couple of things on this that you normally would see in military modeling. Now the first one is, I want to show this really quick. Hopefully my camera focuses fairly quickly so you can check this out. A little bit of texturing on there. So this is actually the chest plate, the bottom half of the chest plate for this kit. And you can see he's got a little bit, I've got a little bit of like a mottled texture on that. And this is because on tanks and whatnot, there was a lot of cast parts, not necessarily like forged or hammered out, but just solid cast pieces. And I'm trying to bring a little bit of that to this. Now, in military modeling, one of the things you really want to pay attention to is that if you look at a tank, they're never a perfect sheen. For example, you can look at, what's a good piece? It'd be this guy right here. So here's a piece of the side skirt. And you look at this and it's all very smooth and it has that sheen to it, right? And this is, again, this is just bare plastic. But even still, you're still going to have some kind of light reflecting off of it. Now, if there was a tank and it was just painted a single color with no real texture to it, you would have this. And if you're trying to lie in wait and ambush somebody or stay camouflaged, this would be a surefire way to get yourself noticed. So what they actually do when they're painting tanks is they will have the person painting it. There's actually Army regulations for painting tanks of how far away you actually need to stand when actually applying the paint. And the reason they have you do that is so that you get this nice broken up texture on top of it. So that's one of the other things I'm going to be going for as well. So this was the first part of it, just getting this kind of broken up texture. But I'm also going to be applying it to the helmet. And this has to do with kind of going for that that German World War II uniform kind of look. Because if you ever look at Army helmets as well, even back in the 1940s, Army helmets are not a shiny plastic, or plastic. They're not a shiny material, not a shiny surface. It's the same kind of idea as the tank. Whereas if you're trying to lie in wait and your head's kind of poking up and you get that shine off of it, well, you're going to get yourself noticed and likely get yourself shot. So we're going to do the same kind of thing with the helmet that we did with this. Now, how did we do this? Simple. Mr. Surfacer, my new best friend. So if you actually have never used Mr. Hobby's Mr. Surfacer, it comes in 3 grades. There's 500, 1000, and 1200. 500 is really heavy grit. 1000 is a little finer, and 1200 is very fine. And this was originally meant to be a primer, but it also has some fantastic other properties for filling gaps and seam lines and that kind of thing, which is how we're going to use it to our advantage today. So really quick, let me get this set up and grab a stick here so we can pop the helmet on there. So I've already given the helmet a bit of a sanding and took a pin vise and drilled out, get the camera to focus on there, drilled out portions of the helmet there on the sides because they were very shallow, so I actually took a pin vise and drilled those out a bit, and just to give it a bit more depth. So, take our Mr. Surfacer, and this is a very quick and easy thing to do. Get my lacquer thinner ready here. So yes, Mr. Surfacer is a lacquer-based paint, and so it is rather noxious to use. Normally I'd have a fan on or something, but I want you to be able to hear me. So we're going to use this, and all you really want to do with it is you just want to kind of start dabbing it onto the surface of it. You're not really looking for a smooth finish. We're actually looking for the exact opposite of that. And don't worry about getting this perfect right off the bat, because that's really not necessary. And just keep kind of dabbing it on there, stippling it on. I don't know if stippling is the right term. I like to babble while I'm doing these videos. I find it helps a lot. So there's our first pass at this, and we kind of have this, you can kind of see it. We have like this really it just looks like somebody's slop paint on there at this point. As soon as my camera decides to work for me. Sorry about that, gang. All right, that's not going to work. Okay, well, we'll come back here. So there's that kind of rough painted surface. It looks like we just kind of slopped some paint on there. And that's fine. That's our first coat. So what you want to do is you want to keep going on. And you don't want to use a ton every single time, because, again, we're trying to build the texture up. So, again, just kind of keep going in and dabbing more on there. And as you're doing this, you're going to notice that it starts building up. Mr. Surfacer being a very thick lacquer-based product, it starts texturing. It's almost like a very light putty. Now, it's important to know it is not a putty. A lot of people think Mr. Surfacer is a putty. It is not. It is just a very thick lacquer pigment. They actually do make Mr. Dissolved Putty, which is their putty product, and I have some of that as well, but it's not applicable for this use. Now, so we've got our second coat on there. Let me try this again. Oh, got a hair stuck in there. Try this again, showing you that. So now you can see we're starting to get a little bit more of the texture on there. See, as the light hits it, it breaks up slightly. All right, so we're getting there. All right, let's try and do one more coat and see what we get. Again, just don't want to use too much. It's almost like dry brushing, but instead of lightly waving the brush back and forth, you're actually just kind of smacking the brush into the surface, because you want to break up that smooth finish. And again, but best if you've done this correctly, it's going to look like you've just kind of like smeared paint all over the thing. But when it dries, you're going to have that really cool textured surface. All right, so let's give this a shot. I think that actually looks just about perfect. Let's get a close-up shot of that. And it's going to have a little shine on it still because of the Mr. Surfacer hasn't quite dried out yet. This stuff dries very quickly being a lacquer-based product. Come on, and focus in. Oh, geez, my camera is really kind of... There we go. So now you can see we have this really interesting, cool surface. Breaks up the light nicely, and it just kind of gets you out of that little boring thing of just having nice, smooth plastic everywhere. I don't know about you, but I actually find that that gets a little old. All right, so when this dries, we will have that kind of broken up surface, much like we have on this piece here. And when you're doing this on your kit, you can kind of go through and just find places where you think this is applicable. There's a couple other spots I may do this on, maybe, possibly this shoulder piece once we get that seam filled in. But that's pretty much it, guys. One quick thing, too, about Mr. Surfacer. Now, it is a lacquer-based product. However, you can clean it up with alcohol on a Q-tip. Fun fact. So let's try that a little bit because you can see I've got some of it on the inner edge there, and I don't want to have that. I want to actually have that be nice and smooth. So we get a little bit of alcohol on a cotton swab here, and I kind of run my hobby stuff like the Bat Cave. I have labels and everything. Always nice to remember. So you see if we have our cotton swab with alcohol and you just kind of rub that on there, it does indeed come right off when you do that. The longer it's had to set and cure, the less agreeable it will be with trying to remove it like this, so it's best to do it as soon as you can. But this is also useful, so say we wanted to go back and actually remove that nice smooth surface that we have on there, and we don't want to use a lacquer thinner because lacquer thinner will often attack plastic unless you're using something like Mr. Color Thinner, which is very much not... And there we go, we've got that edge clean. So we use the alcohol and that doesn't attack plastic, and now we have that nice clean edge. So keep that in mind. Anyway, everybody, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more videos and subscribe. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.